All right. Today we are going to be talking about brains and voices. All right, today we're going to be talking about brains and voices. There's a couple things that we realized we should discuss. First is just like the general processing of brains and voices participant. And we're going to do the whole thing from the top and then talk about some important details too that might come up as necessary information for a a poster or a paper. So we go to File, Open Workspace. We want to be under this auditory threat folder, which is on our D drive. Here's our workspace. You can see there's all kinds of projects here. I like to collapse them all. We're going to add a new project, which is 645. And then just like always, we add the probe, which is the Biosemi 32. And then we add our time series, which is going to be 645. And I'm going to need to also make the right folder. So it should be in here. 645. Oh, hey, look at that. There's another ARCS. There's an ARCS one to process too. You know it's auditory threat because it says AUD at the beginning. Copy it. Now we're going to go put it into the auditory threat area. We're going to make a new folder, 645, because that's the ID number. Paste that in there. I'm going to trim the date off. It is 6/11/2022 when it was done. And we're loading this into Basecamp. And then over here in our Excel file, where we track all these things at 645, and then we said it was 06/11/2022. That go away now. All right, so we open this up just like we always would. You can press OK here. You don't have to do anything. It loads the file. We always change this to 150. Some nice messiness and noise going on here, which is exciting. All right, but then you're going to see it's going to settle down. You'll notice that there's a lot of blue event lines, and that's because this is an auditory task where there's almost, it feels like there's continuous noise, basically. As a participant, there's almost constant noise with little breaks, little pauses, and so these events are showing you that there's a lot happening here. All right, regular filter pipeline stuff, digital IIR filter, do bandpass. And if I'm speaking quickly, it's because all this should be very familiar from watching other videos, not one to learn from for the first time. So you press OK, and then we're going to add the digital reference montage, which is M1, M2. That's what I think important. You're going to notice there's not as much extra stuff down here because for brains and voices, we don't do respiration, we don't do heart rate, we don't do skin conductance, so you don't have as many channels. Now we're going to do the polynomial detrend. We keep the 3 as the default, so you just press OK. We're going to let it process, and then we're going to look for blinks. Now data looks much nicer. We're going to go mark some segments. We're going to call these segments blinks. Here's one. Here's one. This one is a blink too, but it's not as clear as the others, so I'm not going to grab it. This is a blink with maybe some side-to-side eye movement too. I like to get those. These are little blinks. Skipping around with more. Oh wow, a lot of movement here. How was this visit? Was that difficult? Oh, there's some movement. Something happened there. All right. Not the best blink examples, but we'll take it. All right, that's enough of those for this example. You always want to save. We save over our event files, which is okay. Basically, what you're doing is you're like adding new events. Now we're going to make some more segments of clean data. Again, it's all very familiar stuff. All right, here, this is a nice section right here. Some pretty clean looking data. I'll take this little snippet. Looks pretty good too. There's some alpha wave stuff going on here, which we're not going to grab. I think that's a pretty good chunk too. All right, now we're going to stop this. This is that saving over thing I was talking about. We're going to go to filter pipeline and add in our ocular artifact correction. Press next, find blinks, next, find clean, next. Do everything except for, surprised it has all these extra channels for some reason. That's really odd. Shouldn't have those. These are okay to leave in. These are the eye channels. You can also take them out. Doesn't make a difference. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, let's go 4. And data is going to look much cleaner now. Open movement. That's not going. This is not something that is a blank issue, so it won't be cleaned by blinks. All right. Our workspace has a little star. It means it needs to be saved. We're going to save the workspace. And now here's where it's really important to pay attention to what we're going to do next. You always want to make sure that you have the right file for batching. So we go to batch and we go to event file. And this is where it gets a little confusing. So there are 2 currently. And the reason why there's 2 currently is because we've been playing around with different stringency levels. And this is something that is important to know to understand a little bit more of what's going on with the actual data. So if you go here, you'll see there's 2. One is ERP script, one is ERP script 120. I'm going to show you what the difference is. So let's do the ERP script first. The main thing to look at to understand the difference is under number 4, where it says specify bins. And to look underneath the hood here, you go to edit create for step 4. Here, we're going to see that there's this time window. We're going to go to edit. And you'll see down here that there is this section where it says apply thresholds to selected channels over a specific interval. And basically what that means is that over our interval of interest, which is a pretty small interval, don't allow, there's that interval again, don't allow any EEG activity that is of a change below this amount or above this amount. This is probably in volts, so that's why there's so many zeros here. And so if we see a large negative change or a large positive change within this short window of time, it's telling the program to exclude that trial. Did I explain that in a clear way? Okay, since we're not actually changing anything, we're just going to close this out. I'm going to press cancel. We do our usual select time series. We clear all so that it won't have this one checked. And then we go do the ones that we're processing right now, which is just auditory thread 645. Yeah, right. Did that correctly? Now we'll execute. And then in a moment, I'm going to pull up the ERP script 120 and show you that there is a different number in that area where it's talking about excluding trials. And basically the difference is that the one that has the 120 in it is more conservative. It's going to throw out more channels. And the reason why we've done this is because the data that we're generally getting from auditory threat participants is so good that we can be pickier with which trials we allow in versus which ones we exclude. And we don't have that same luxury with ARCs because there aren't nearly as many trials in the ARCs task as there are with auditory threat tasks, because we basically have almost a continuous stream of trials because there's so many sounds that the kids are hearing. So we're going to go back to event pipeline. You'll notice that all these boxes are checked. It remembers the script from before. So we need to load all again. And this time we're going to do ERP script 120. And then we're going to go look at specify bins again. You don't normally have to do this each time, but we're just looking at the specify bins so you can see the difference. So number 4, specify bins, edit, create. If we go over here again and we press the edit button and then look down here at the apply threshold section, you can see that this number is different now. It's 0.0012 or negative 0.0012. And then positive 0.0012 as the threshold. So that is a narrower window as opposed to if these were 4s. And in theory, you could set these numbers at anything to be very, very conservative to the point where you don't allow anything in, which you obviously wouldn't want to do, or you can allow it to be so big that anything can get through your filters, and that's also a problem, obviously. So we're still sort of playing around with these 2 different levels of filtering, the 14 versus the 12 level of filtering. And so we can run the scripts both times. You'll get a different number of trials, which is also something that we're going to look at next. So we're going to cancel all this because we don't actually want to make any changes. We're going to go to select time series. We're going to clear this. We're going to put in auditory threat 645 again, press OK. Going to take some time to think. And you're going to see over here where it adds your new files, your batched files, they're going to have different names because we want to make it clear that they're not the same thing. So these are saying they have the extra numbers in here, 120, to tell you that they have a different filter. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So like the one that just says standard is got the 140 filter, where it looks like 14, the 0.0014. And if we open it up, standard 645, you'll see that there are 264 trials. So we got about half of them out of a total of 519. But then if we go to standard 120, it's 213. So that's actually a really, really big difference. That's a difference of like 50 trials between these 2 levels of filtering. And so for the beginning of the auditory threat study early on, we were having the kids come in and they were sitting so still and we were getting so many trials that we thought, hey, maybe we can get away with being really picky about which ones we allow in here. And sometimes there's almost no difference in the number of trials between the 140 and 120 because the kids are sitting so still that you're not seeing huge fluctuations in the signal or even small fluctuations in the signal. But 120 is definitely going to be a little bit pickier and sensitive than the 140. And then for a case like this that we just processed where we did see plenty of noisiness, you can see how these different filters make a big difference. So the reason why I wanted to make the video and show this and explain all this is because it can be confusing when you go to batch and you see, when you go to load all, you see these 2 very similar names and it can be confusing as to know which one to do. So for now, since we're not sure what we want to use, do both. And so you're basically just batching it 2 times as you would normally batch. And then for over here, where we log the number of trials, the numbers are going to be different. So let's just go ahead and make the decision that the numbers we're going to want to log are for using the, you know what, let's just do both. We'll add extra columns, we'll do both, we'll cover our bases. This is a video where we are making decisions live. All right, so please make sure to watch this carefully, to log these things carefully. We'll go ahead and add these columns now just so that people can see what it's going to look like. Because we don't want people to be surprised when they're doing this for the first time. We'll call these angry 120. Actually, this over. 120. So there's a little bit more work for us to do here, but I think it's going to help make things more clear later on. And then, so for instance, for this one that we just did, let's see if I can sort of split the screen here for a minute. So this one was standard 213. So here, under standard without the 120. All right, sorry about that. One more time. This one was 264. right? So this is standard 264. And then the other one that we were looking at, the standard 120, was 213. Pretty big difference. So I'm going to go back in and we're going to fill in the rest of the chart for not just this person, but for everybody else to make sure that it's really clear that we've got two different options for the event pipeline. And that should make that clear. Thanks very much.